A potter in ancient China woke at dawn every day, exhausted before his work even began. His name was Li Ming, and he made vessels that people traveled great distances to own. Yet he hated every moment at the wheel. At night, when he finally returned home, his wife would speak to him, and he heard nothing. His children would laugh, and he felt nothing. He was not there. He was still at the workshop, thinking about the pieces he left unfinished, the orders stacking up, the wheel waiting for him at sunrise. One evening, his wife asked him a simple question. "When are you ever here?" He had no answer. The next morning, Li Ming made a decision. He would create perfect separation. Work would stay at the workshop. Life would stay at home. He set strict rules. No thinking about pottery after sunset. No planning designs during family time. Complete disconnection. For exactly 3 weeks, he felt proud of his discipline. Then the cracks began to show. During dinner, his mind drifted to an unfinished vase. During work, guilt crept in about the time he was not spending with his family. He started resenting both. The workshop felt like a prison stealing his life. Home felt like a place where he was failing. The wall he built to protect both sides had actually split him in two. He was never fully present anywhere. His work suffered. His family felt further away than before. One afternoon, exhausted and confused, Li Ming sat by the river near his workshop. His old master, who had not spoken to him in months, sat down beside him. The master said nothing for a long time. Then he gestured toward the mountain across the river. Half the mountain was bright with sunlight. Half was deep in shadow. "You are trying to separate the bright side from the dark side," his master said quietly. "This cannot be done. They are the same mountain. One cannot exist without the other. They create each other." If you have ever tried to achieve work-life balance, you know Li Ming's frustration. You set boundaries. You protect your time. You create rules about when work ends and life begins. Yet somehow, the harder you try to separate them, the more conflict you feel. You are working, but feeling guilty about home. You are home, but feeling anxious about work. The separation creates the exact stress it promised to solve. What if everything we have been told about work-life balance is backwards? What if the problem is not that we need better separation, but that we are trying to separate something that was never meant to be divided? The ancient Taoists understood something about human nature that modern culture has forgotten. They did not see life as separate pieces that must be balanced against each other. They saw it as one continuous reality, expressing itself through different states. They described this through the principle of yin and yang. Yin-yang literally describes the dark and bright sides of a mountain. When the sun rises, one slope is bathed in light, while the other remains in shadow. But here is what matters. These are not two different mountains. They are not enemies competing for dominance. They are the same mountain, simply showing different faces at different times. There is no mountain with only a sunny side. There is no shadow that exists without light somewhere nearby. This is not just poetic language. The concept appears in ancient Chinese texts as early as the 4th century BCE. The Shiqi, an appendix to the I Ching, states it directly. A succession of yin and yang is called the Tao. In other words, the natural way of things is not balance between opposites. It is flow between complementary phases of the same reality. Think about what this means. Rest follows activity. Winter follows summer. Silence follows sound. These are not forces at war with each other. They are phases of a single system. Each state contains the seed of its opposite waiting to emerge. At the height of summer, the turn toward autumn has already begun deep in the earth. In the deepest stillness, energy gathers for action. Traditional Taoist texts emphasize this pattern everywhere in nature. Water moves through cycles. Seasons change without violence. Day becomes night, becomes day, in a rhythm that needs no forcing. The Taoist insight is that human life works the same way. Yet we fight it. We try to hold summer permanent. We resist the turn to rest. We make enemies out of natural phases. This is where the second principle becomes essential. The ancient Chinese called it liu, written as liu and pronounced li-o. Liu means to flow, like water moves through its natural course. It describes the graceful movement between states, not rigid separation, not forced balance. Flow. Liu appears in countless classical Chinese expressions. One says, flowing like clouds in water, to describe something completely natural and unforced. Another speaks of source is distant and flow is long, to show how something continues through many transformations. The character itself shows water moving. This is not accident. The Taoists observed that water never forces its way. It moves around obstacles. It finds the natural path. It does not worry about balancing different states. Sometimes it rushes. Sometimes it rests in still pools. Both are part of its nature. Li Ming's master understood this deeply. Sitting by that river, he did not give Li Ming a technique or a rule. He gave him a way of seeing. Work and life are not enemies, his master said. They are like the sunny and shaded slopes, the same mountain expressing itself in different ways. When you try to wall off one from the other, you create suffering. Not because the wall fails, but because you are trying to divide what is naturally whole. Something shifted in Li Ming in that moment. Not his schedule, not his boundaries, his understanding. He realized he had been treating work as the enemy of rest, treating rest as the opposite of productivity. He had made them fight each other inside his own mind. Every hour became a battlefield. Every moment of work carried resentment that he was losing life. Every moment of rest carried guilt that he was failing at work. What if he stopped fighting? What if work and rest were not opponents, but partners in a natural rhythm? Here's what most people miss about work-life balance. The problem is not that we work too much or rest too little. The problem is that we are at war with whichever state we are in. We work while wishing we were resting. We rest while feeling guilty about not working. We split our attention between where we are and where we think we should be. This split is where the exhaustion lives. The Taoist approach offers something radically different. Not better boundaries, not stricter schedules, not more willpower to stay separated. Instead, integration. Instead of fighting natural rhythms, moving with them. Instead of demanding balance, allowing flow. The first principle is seeing complementary forces, not opposing ones. Work is not the enemy of rest. Work is what makes rest meaningful. Without work, rest becomes empty time. Without rest, work becomes grinding exhaustion that produces nothing of value. They support each other. They need each other. When you understand this, you stop trying to protect one from the other. Think of a traditional Chinese farmer. She did not see planting season and winter rest as opposing forces to balance. She saw them as complementary phases of the same cycle. During planting, she worked intensely with full presence. Her whole being engaged with the soil, the seeds, the rhythm of the work. During winter, she rested deeply, also with full presence. Her whole being settled into stillness. She did not feel guilty during rest because she knew rest was preparing her for the next cycle of growth. She did not resent work because she knew work was moving her toward earned rest. This is not about working all the time or resting all the time. It is about being fully present in whichever state you are in, without resistance, without anxiety about the other state. The second principle is flow between states, not rigid separation. Here's the truth that modern productivity culture does not want you to know. Your mind does not turn off like a machine. Creative insights often arrive during rest. Physical relaxation often comes after focused work. The Taoists observed this and worked with it instead of against it. Lu teaches us to create smooth transitions rather than hard walls. Think about how day transitions to night. There is no precise moment when one ends and the other begins. There is twilight, a gradual shift that honors both states. This is easier on the system than trying to flip a switch. Instead of forcing yourself to completely shut off work thoughts at exactly 6 in the evening, you create a transition ritual. You might walk slowly from your workspace to your home. You might change your clothes mindfully. You might practice a few minutes of conscious breathing. These actions signal to your body and mind that a shift is occurring. Not a violent separation. A gentle flow from one phase to another. This matters more than you might think. When you force a hard separation, you create internal resistance. Your nervous system registers the abruptness as stress. When you allow a flowing boundary, you work with your natural rhythms instead of fighting them. The third principle is integration through natural rhythm. Your energy moves in cycles, whether you acknowledge it or not. Some mornings, you wake with clarity and focused power. Other mornings, you wake needing gentleness and quiet. Some days, your body signals it is ready for intense engagement. Other days, it asks for slower movement and reflection. The Taoist approach is to notice these rhythms and work with them rather than imposing artificial ones. This does not mean working only when you feel like it. It means noticing the difference between the productive intensity that comes from alignment and the forced productivity that comes from resistance. When you are aligned with your natural rhythm, even difficult work feels engaging. There is effort, yes, but not exhaustion that drains your core. When you force against your rhythm, even easy tasks feel impossible. Your whole system resists what you are demanding. Li Ming eventually learned this. He stopped trying to separate work from life through walls and rules. He learned to integrate them through awareness and flow. During his work hours, he worked with complete presence, not resenting the clay, but engaging with it fully, noticing when his energy was high and taking on complex pieces, noticing when his energy was quieter and doing simpler preparation work. During family time, he was fully there, not guilty about unfinished work, but grateful for the shift to rest. His wife would speak, and he heard her. His children would laugh, and he felt it. When creative insight came during rest, he would quietly note it without guilt. Perhaps sketch a quick design, then return to rest without the old anxiety that he was stealing from work time. Something surprising happened. His work improved because he stopped resenting it. The pieces became more alive. His rest deepened because he stopped feeling guilty during it. He began to sleep through the night for the first time in years. The wall came down, and what replaced it was not chaos. It was a natural flow between complementary phases of one integrated life. This is what the ancient texts mean when they speak of Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action. It is not about doing nothing. It is about acting in harmony with natural rhythms rather than forcing against them. When you stop fighting the natural integration of work and life, both become easier. Not because you are working less or trying harder, but because you stop wasting energy on internal conflict. The modern workplace makes this challenging in ways the ancient Taoists never faced. You are expected to respond to messages at all hours. Your work follows you home through devices that never sleep. The boundaries between work time and personal time have dissolved, but in a way that creates constant stress rather than natural flow. Here's the twist most people miss. The problem is not the technology. The problem is that we are using modern tools while holding an outdated mental model. We still think in terms of separation and balance, when what we actually need is integration and flow. The solution is not to fight against reality with increasingly rigid rules. The solution is to create flow that works with how you actually function. This means something different than what productivity culture teaches. It means paying attention to your actual energy rather than an artificial schedule. It means being fully where you are instead of always divided. It means trusting natural rhythms instead of forcing unnatural ones. Here's how you can apply this understanding starting today. 1. Notice when you are resisting your current state. Pay attention throughout your day. Are you working while wishing you were resting? Are you resting while feeling guilty about work? Simply notice this pattern without judgment. This awareness itself begins to shift something. You start to see how much energy you waste being mentally somewhere else. 2. Create a transition ritual between work and rest. Choose something simple. A 10-minute walk where you notice your breath and the feeling of your feet touching the ground. Changing your clothes mindfully, feeling the texture of the fabric. 5 minutes of sitting quietly, watching your energy shift. The specific activity matters less than the quality of presence you bring to it. 3. Work with your natural rhythm instead of imposing external rules. Notice which times of day you naturally have energy for focused work. When possible, align your most demanding tasks with these times. Notice when your energy naturally turns toward rest or lighter work. Honor this instead of forcing through it. Your productivity will increase, not because you are trying harder, but because you stop fighting your own nature. 4. Practice full presence in whatever state you are in. This is harder than it sounds and more powerful than you might expect. When you work, work completely. Give your full attention to what is in front of you. When you rest, rest completely. Stop checking messages. Stop planning tomorrow. Simply be where you are. The quality of your attention matters more than the hours you spend. 5. Let go of the guilt. This is essential. Rest is not stealing from work. Rest is what makes good work possible. Work is not stealing from life. Work is one expression of a full life. They are two faces of the same mountain. Both necessary. Both valuable. Neither the enemy of the other. The Taoists did not speak of work-life balance because they understood there is only one life. Sometimes that life looks like focused work. Sometimes it looks like deep rest. Sometimes it looks like creative play. Sometimes it looks like quiet reflection. These are not separate pieces to juggle. They are the natural flow of a whole life expressing itself through different phases. The ancient texts make this clear. The Tao Te Ching states that returning is the movement of the Tao. Life moves in cycles. Yin becomes yang becomes yin, not through force, through natural transformation. The seed becomes the plant, becomes the fruit, becomes the seed. Work becomes rest, becomes work. Not as enemies, as phases of one continuous rhythm. You do not need better boundaries. You need better integration. You do not need stricter separation. You need smoother flow. You do not need to balance opposing forces. You need to harmonize complementary ones. The mountain does not balance its sunny side against its shaded side. The mountain simply exists as a whole, and both sides are essential to what it is. Your life works the same way. Work and rest are not two different mountains competing for your limited attention. They are two expressions of one integrated life. When Li Ming finally understood this, he went back to his workshop. But something was different. He no longer woke with resentment. He no longer collapsed at the end of each day. He worked with full presence when he worked. He rested with full peace when he rested. His wife noticed he heard her again. His children noticed he smiled at their laughter. His customers noticed his pottery had become more alive. The change was not in his schedule. The change was in his understanding. He stopped trying to separate what was never meant to be divided. He stopped making enemies out of natural phases. He learned to flow with what already wanted to flow. This is what the Taoist path offers, not a technique, a way of seeing, not more control, more trust in what is natural. If you are ready to stop fighting the natural flow of work and life and start moving with it, write in the comments, "I choose flow over separation." Thank you for watching.